If you are new here, please like the video and subscribe. Statistics show that only 15% of my audience is subscribed to the channel. So if this content has helped you in any way, I ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Now, let's go back to the topic. Have you ever wondered what really goes on in someone's mind when they dismiss or reject someone who truly cared for them? Let's be honest. You loved them, you gave your all, and they treated you like you were invisible. So, you did what they expected, or at least what they thought you would do. You went silent. But what if your silence isn't the bold, unpredictable move you thought it was? What if they were waiting for it? What if they saw it coming long before you even decided to retreat? Picture them sitting there, smug and self-assured, thinking, I knew it, this is exactly what I expected. So predictable. And the most infuriating part, instead of feeling the weight of your silence, they're basking in their own sense of victory, smirking and thinking, oh, they're trying the silent treatment. How cute. It's frustrating, isn't it? While you're sitting there imagining their regret, hoping your absence will make them realize your worth, they're feeling like they've already won. But what if you flipped the script? What if your silence wasn't about waiting for their attention, but about reclaiming your power? Because a Stoic doesn't beg for recognition. A Stoic doesn't sit silently, hoping someone will notice. A Stoic uses silence not as a tool for revenge, but as a declaration of strength. So, stick around, because today we're not just talking about silence. We're talking about rising above it. Let's shatter their smug little narrative and show them what true power looks like. Number one, they think they've won, but they haven't. They think your silence is a sign of defeat. In their mind, your withdrawal is nothing more than an admission that you've lost. They sit there, smug, basking in their imagined victory, convinced that they've beaten you. To them, your silence is proof that you've been brought down, reduced to a distant memory, a minor character in a story where they've crowned themselves the undefeated champion, but they're wrong, so very wrong. Let me share a story about someone I know. We'll call her Sarah. Sarah spent a year pouring her heart and soul into a relationship with a boyfriend who never appreciated her. Every time she tried to connect, he pushed her away. Whenever she expressed her feelings, he dismissed them as overreacting. Finally, Sarah decided enough was enough. She went silent. She stopped reaching out, stopped trying to explain herself. At first, her ex thought he had won. He believed her silence was her surrender, confident she would come crawling back like before. But this time, Sarah didn't return. Instead, she focused on herself. She took up new hobbies, prioritized her health, and rebuilt her confidence. When her ex finally realized she wasn't coming back, that's when he truly lost. Here's the thing people like that never understand. Silence isn't always a surrender. Sometimes it's the most powerful statement of all. They expect you to lose control, to argue, to plead, to give them a reason to feel significant. But when you don't do that, when your silence is not for them but for yourself, they're left confused. In their twisted minds, they think you're playing the same game as them, that your silence is a strategy to lure them back. But they're wrong. You've stopped playing their game entirely. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true strength doesn't come from retaliation or waiting for someone else to change. It comes from mastering your own mind, overcoming your emotions, and choosing a better path for yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." That's exactly what Sarah did. She didn't need his apology, his acknowledgement, or his closure. Her silence wasn't a tactic to make him notice. It was a declaration that he no longer had any power over her. So, what happens when they realize this? That's when they truly lose. Not because you fought back, but because you stopped fighting. They can't manipulate you if you don't react. They can't control you if you're not there. And what terrifies them most is that you're not just surviving, you're thriving. You're building a life far beyond their reach, one where their opinion and presence no longer matter. Remember, your silence isn't a game, it's freedom. You don't need their apology, their acknowledgement, or their closure. You've already given yourself all of that. Let them sit there, wondering what happened while you rise higher, become stronger, wiser, and completely out of their reach. This time you don't need to look back. You've already won, not by playing their game, but by walking away and choosing your own path. Number 2, the mask they wear is cracking. Have you ever wondered why some people seem untouchable? They walk through life with flawless confidence, a perfect smile, and words that make you believe they have everything under control. But if you've ever been close enough to someone like this, you'll realize it's all a performance. Beneath the polished exterior, they wear a mask crafted from lies, manipulation, and a deep fear of being seen for who they truly are. Let me tell you about Peter, someone I used to work with. Peter was the epitome of confidence. He always looked sharp, spoke like a seasoned leader, and had an uncanny ability to manipulate people's emotions. At first, you couldn't help but admire him, but over time, the cracks in his mask began to show. Broken promises, disappearing when challenges arose, and shifting blame onto others revealed the truth. Peter wasn't as strong as he wanted everyone to believe. In reality, he was terrified of being exposed. People like Peter live behind their masks. They use them to manipulate emotions, convincing others they're extraordinary and deserving of admiration. But these masks aren't made of steel, they're made of fragile glass. Every lie, every broken heart, every time they dodge, accountability creates a crack. No matter how hard they try to patch it up, the mask can only hold for so long. What they fear most is when you start to see through them. When you stop seeking their approval and refuse to let them manipulate you, their power over you disappears. They expect you to react, argue, or plead. But when you choose silence and focus on yourself, they're left bewildered because, at that moment, their mask begins to shatter. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true strength doesn't come from retaliation or exposing someone's flaws. It comes from mastering yourself. Marcus Aurelius once said, "We are not disturbed by what happens, but by our perception of it." You don't need to confront or expose their mask. Reality will do that for you. The cracks will widen until the mask falls apart on its own. While they live in fear of being seen for who they are, you don't need a mask. You've faced pain, betrayal, and challenges, and you've risen above them, not by pretending to be strong, but by becoming strong. While their world is built on deception, yours is built on authenticity. They need illusions to survive, but you thrive on truth. They hide from their reality, while you own yours. Let them cling to their fragile mask, pretending everything is fine. You don't need to tear it off because their actions will do it for them. And when that mask finally shatters, they'll realize they were never as strong as they pretended to be, and you were never as weak as they hoped. Say this with me: I see through the mask. Declare it. Live by it. Because while they desperately try to hold their facade together, you've already moved on, rising higher, stronger, and leaving them far behind. Number 3, what they never expected. They think they understand you. They believe they've predicted your every move, that you'll crumble, cry, and beg for their attention. In their minds, you're the one who will collapse under the weight of their absence. They're convinced they know your limits, that your silence is just the final step before you disappear entirely. But what they never expected is that your silence is not an end. It's the beginning of something far greater. Have you ever known someone like this? Someone who took you for granted, always assuming they were in control? I've seen it happen. Lisa, a single mother, lived in a toxic relationship where her husband controlled everything. Not just the finances or big decisions, but even the smallest details of her daily life. She tried to explain herself, tried to fix things, hoping he would finally see her value. But her efforts were ignored, treated as if they were meaningless. One day, Lisa decided she had endured enough. She didn't yell, she didn't argue, and she didn't seek his attention. She chose silence. He thought he'd won. In his mind, Lisa's silence was a sign of weakness, a signal that she was still waiting for him, still trapped in the relationship. But while he basked in self-satisfaction, Lisa quietly transformed. She spent her time learning new skills, planning for an independent future, and rebuilding her confidence. Her silence wasn't because she was broken. It was because she was done. Done explaining. Done waiting. Done wasting her energy on someone who would never appreciate her. Stoic philosophy teaches that the most powerful silence isn't a tactic. It's a declaration that you've risen above what once held you back. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not external events." And that's exactly what Lisa did. Her silence wasn't for his attention. It was for her freedom. While he thought he'd written the final chapter of her story, Lisa was already writing a new beginning for herself. Think of a volcano, quiet and seemingly still. But beneath the surface, power is building, pressure is rising. That's you. While they think your silence is a sign of defeat, you're building in the shadows, becoming someone they can never touch. Your silence isn't the end. It's the foundation for your rebirth, for a stronger, unstoppable version of yourself. What terrifies them isn't your anger, it's your indifference. They expect blame, arguments, or at least some sign that you still care. But when they realize you've redirected all that energy inward, they lose all their power. Author Janet Fitch once said, "The phoenix must burn to rise." They thought they'd reduced you to ashes, but they didn't realize that from those ashes, you've risen. You haven't just survived, you've thrived. You've taken what they thought would destroy you and used it to build a future they'll never be a part of. Your silence isn't an attempt to make them recognize your worth. It's a declaration that your worth was never theirs to define. So, let them think they've won. Let them be smug, believing they still hold control. But while they're busy analyzing and second-guessing, you've stepped into a new world where their opinions and power no longer exist. You don't need their recognition, their apology, or their closure. Your silence is proof of your strength, and your absence is the echo they can never escape. Say this with me. I am the storm they never saw coming. Live by it. Declare it. Because while they're trying to predict your next move, you've already moved far beyond their reach. And this time, you're not looking back. You've won, not by playing their game, but by rewriting the story on your own terms. Number 4. Reclaiming power like a Stoic. Imagine a small ship in the middle of the sea, facing a fierce storm, waves crashing, winds howling, and for a moment it seems like the ship might sink. But deep below the surface, the ship has an anchor. Invisible, silent, yet steadfast, it holds the ship steady through the chaos. You are that ship, and your inner strength, your ability to remain calm, composed and grounded, is your anchor. This is what reclaiming power as a Stoic means, not fighting the storm but becoming unshakable within it. There are people who laugh at your silence. They think they've defeated you. They expect you to crumble, to be overwhelmed by the weight of the chaos they created. They think they understand you, assuming you'll drift aimlessly like any other ship caught in a storm. But what they didn't count on was your anchor, the source of strength that no storm can uproot. Reclaiming power like a Stoic doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending not to care. It means facing your wounds, acknowledging your emotions, processing them, and then letting them go. It's refusing to let external chaos disrupt your inner peace. It's understanding that your value isn't determined by how others treat you, but by how you choose to respond. Imagine a candle in the dark. No matter how deep the night, the candle continues to burn, quietly, steadily, without needing fanfare. That's you. They think your silence means you've been extinguished, that they've snuffed out your light. But in reality, you're burning brighter than ever, just out of their reach. They don't see it because they're too busy looking for fireworks when they should fear the quiet flame that never goes out. Stoic philosophy teaches us that the person who masters their emotions is someone no one can manipulate. They can stir chaos, throw stones, and create confusion. But if you remain focused and calm, nothing can touch you. Marcus Aurelius wisely wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Reclaiming power isn't about revenge or proving a point. It's about redirecting your energy. The moment you stop reacting to their actions, you regain your energy. The moment you stop seeking their validation or closure, you reclaim your peace. And when you no longer need them to see your worth, you reclaim your freedom. They think they hold the strings, that you're a puppet dancing to their tune. But what they fail to realize is that the power to cut those strings has always been in your hands. They expect you to keep playing their game, seeking their attention. But you're no puppet. You're the one holding the sword. Reclaiming power like a Stoic means realizing that your happiness, your success, and your future do not depend on anyone else. As the philosopher Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Manipulative people always crave control. They thrive on your reactions, your attention. But when you stop reacting, you take away the very fuel they need. When you stop seeking closure from them, you grant yourself peace. And when you no longer need them to acknowledge your worth, you take back the power they thought they had. Let them think your silence is a sign of failure. Let them feel smug, believing they still control you. But while they're busy analyzing and second-guessing, you've already stepped into a world where their opinions and power no longer exist. Your silence isn't surrender. It's a declaration that you no longer live in their world, follow their rules, or seek their approval. Say this with me: I reclaim my power. Declare it, own it, and live it. Because you are the anchor that holds steady through the storm. You are the flame that burns brightly through the darkest nights. You are the master of your mind. And when you reclaim that power, nothing and no one can take it away from you. Before we move on to the fifth one, if you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell on so you don't miss future videos. If you're as passionate about this kind of content as I am, leave a comment saying, "I beat them." Let's continue. Number 5, the flip they never saw coming. Imagine playing a game where your opponent is so confident they've already won. They relax, bask in their so-called victory, certain you have no moves left. But just when they least expect it, you make a move they never saw coming. That's the moment everything changes. They thought they had buried you in failure, but in reality, they were planting the seeds of your rebirth. Take Mia, for example. She was a talented designer working at a company where her boss never appreciated her efforts. Every initiative she proposed was dismissed, and worse, her ideas were often stolen without acknowledgement. Mia had tried to prove her value, but one day she realized it was a waste of energy. Instead of arguing or complaining, she chose silence. She focused on her work while secretly preparing for something much bigger. Her boss thought he'd won. He believed Mia had accepted her position and would remain in the shadows. But while he was busy reveling in his so-called dominance, Mia was quietly building her future. She worked on her portfolio, networked with potential employers, and prepared for a leap in her career. And then, seemingly out of nowhere, Mia submitted her resignation and took a position at a prestigious company that valued her talent. Her former boss was stunned. He had assumed she would always remain a small piece in his system, but Mia had moved on to a brighter, more fulfilling future. Those who underestimated Mia believed her silence was a sign of defeat, that she had surrendered. But in truth, her silence was the foundation for a stronger, more powerful version of herself. Her silence wasn't submission. It was a declaration that she was ready to move forward without needing their validation. Stoic philosophy teaches that strength doesn't come from revenge or confrontation. True strength comes from freedom. Marcus Aurelius once said, "True freedom is achieved when you let go of what's beyond your control." Mia didn't try to rewrite the past or seek closure from those who dismissed her. She chose to let things be and moved forward. Every step she took wasn't to prove anything to them, it was to live fully for herself. Now, think of a seed buried deep in the ground. To the outside world, it looks dead, forgotten, irrelevant. But beneath the surface, the seed is growing. Its roots stretch deep into the soil, accumulating strength. And then one day, without warning, it breaks through the earth, strong, unstoppable, undeniable. You are that seed. They thought they had buried you, but in reality, they were planting you. And now you've become the force they never anticipated. They expected you to stay stuck in the past, haunted by what could have been. But while they were replaying their old games, you were building a new life where their existence no longer mattered. Your silence wasn't meant to make them regret. It was meant for you to reclaim yourself, your value, and your future. When they finally realize the change, it will hit them like a storm they never prepared for. They will look for the person they thought they left behind, but that person no longer exists. Instead, they will face someone they can't control, someone who no longer reacts, someone thriving without them. Poet Rumi once said, "The wound is where the light enters you." Every hurt they inflicted, every time they dismissed or ignored you, they unknowingly handed you the key to your freedom. You didn't just survive, you grew stronger, more resilient, and completely out of their reach. They thought your silence was proof of failure. But they didn't understand that silence was your strength. Your silence wasn't surrender. It was a declaration that you had rewritten your story, that you no longer lived in their world, followed their rules, or sought their approval. Say this with me. I am the flip they never saw coming. Live it. Declare it. Because while they're stuck in the past, you're thriving in a radiant future they'll never touch. And this time, you don't need to look back. You've won, not by playing their game, but by rewriting the rules and taking control of your own story. Number 6, they were never the prize you are. Imagine a hunter chasing a shimmering mirage in the desert, convinced it's a treasure of immeasurable value. They sprint toward it, consumed by hunger and greed. But when they finally reach it, they discover it was never real, just an illusion born from their own desperation. That's who they are, the ones who left you believing they were the prize, that you were the one chasing after their recognition, love, and acceptance. They thought their absence would break you, leaving you hollow and longing. But the truth couldn't be more different. The real prize was never them. It was always you. They failed to see it because they were too blinded by their inflated sense of importance, convinced that their presence defined your value. They saw themselves as irreplaceable, believing that their love and acknowledgement were the only things that made you whole. But they missed the truth. It was your loyalty, sincerity, and love that brought light to the relationship. They tried to convince you that you needed them to feel complete. Yet, all they brought were empty promises, emotional manipulation, and mind games. Meanwhile, you were the one who fought for the relationship, who trusted, sacrificed, and gave wholeheartedly. They were never the source of value. The real value was always within you, even if you couldn't see it through the haze of their deception. Stoic philosophy teaches us that value doesn't come from how others see you. It comes from how you see yourself. Marcus Aurelius wisely wrote, "You have power over your mind, not external events." When you realize your worth doesn't depend on anyone else, you begin to reclaim your power. They walked away believing they had won, thinking you would always miss them, always wait for them. But they didn't realize that your silence wasn't surrender. It was a declaration that you've moved on to a place where they no longer have control over you. Your silence wasn't weakness. It was the foundation on which you rebuilt yourself, finding a strength and value they could never take away. They thought they left you behind, but in truth, they lost the greatest thing that ever happened to them. They believed others could replace you, but they'll never find someone with your kindness, your deep love, and your ability to show up fully, even in hard times. You are irreplaceable, not because of what you gave, but because of who you are. Let them believe they're the prize. Let them think their absence means something. But you know the truth. You've moved beyond the illusion, past their manipulation, and past the need for their approval. You've stepped into a world where you set the standards, where you understand that you were always the prize. Say this with me. I am the prize. Declare it. Live it. Because while they were busy pretending to be something of value, you were priceless all along. And now they'll never have access to you again. Number 7, the fall they never saw coming. Imagine a towering structure built from stolen bricks, pieced together by shaky hands, held in place by lies, manipulation, and empty promises. To the outside world, it appears impressive, tall, unyielding, untouchable. But within its walls are deep cracks, hollow spaces running through its core, ready to collapse the moment life's storms arrive. That tower is them, people who have spent their existence pretending to be something greater than they are. They cloak themselves in confidence like armor, crafting a false image of power and charm. They climb higher by using others as stepping stones, believing their charisma and cunning will keep them at the top forever. But time is merciless. It exposes every hidden flaw, strips away every facade, and reveals the truth beneath. No matter how carefully they craft their appearance or how well they play the game, their fall is inevitable. Too busy basking in their imagined superiority, they miss the cracks forming beneath them. They move on quickly, treating you like a discarded pawn in their game. They believe they've broken you, left you behind, and moved forward without consequence. But life has a way of teaching lessons to those who refuse to learn. While they chase shallow validation, meaningless relationships, and fleeting distractions, you rise, slowly, steadily, and in silence. They thought their absence would destroy you, but instead, it set you free. You stopped giving away your power. You stopped seeking explanations and hoping for closure. You let go. They assumed your silence meant failure, but it was rebirth. While they repeated the same toxic patterns, you transformed. You grew into something far greater than they ever imagined, someone completely beyond their reach. Over time, they will feel the weight of what they've lost. They will remember you, how you showed up with love, loyalty, and patience. They will recall how you fought for them, forgave them, and believed in them long after they deserved it. They will remember every time they pushed you away, believing you would always return, until the day you didn't. Their downfall will not be dramatic. It will be the slow realization that they are trapped in an endless cycle of meaningless pursuits. As the Greek philosopher Heraclitus once said, "Character is destiny." Their destiny was forged by the lies they told, the hearts they broke, and the trust they shattered. They may have fooled the world for a time, but in the end, they couldn't fool themselves. When the world quiets, and there's no one left to deceive, they will feel the weight of their actions. The long, lonely nights will crush them under the emptiness they created. No fleeting thrill or superficial relationship will fill the void, because what they lost is irreplaceable. They lost you. Not just the version of you they knew, but the person who loved them despite their flaws. The person who cared, who tried, who stayed. One day they will realize they didn't just lose someone who cared. They lost the best thing that ever happened to them. But by the time they understand, you will be so far beyond their reach that even the memory of you will feel like a distant dream. They will search for someone like you, but they will never find them. People like you don't appear twice. People like you are irreplaceable. Marcus Aurelius once said, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." While you've lived fully without regret, they remain stuck in a cycle of empty games, failed relationships, and endless regret. They've become prisoners of the very world they created. And that is the fall they never saw coming. Say this with me. I am their final lesson. Live it. Declare it. Because while they are trapped in the rubble of the lies they built, you've risen to live a life filled with strength, purpose, and freedom. Your story is just beginning. I would love to hear about your journey and triumphs. Please hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and leave a comment below to share your story, your successes, and even the challenges you've overcome. If you're not sure what to comment, just write, "I beat them," to show that you've completed this session. Your engagement helps this community grow toward wisdom and the art of turning every challenge into an opportunity. I'll leave 2 more videos here so you can continue learning and growing on your personal development journey. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.